My son asked me if he could be involved in professional sport. I said yes, of course you can. And he said how? He said there's no one in sport who has any of the challenges that I do. My aim was to find these athletes, coaches, professionals, and interview them and share their stories so that we can show the world what is beyond perception. Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond Perception podcast, a podcast created to explore the world of sport and the people that are involved in it, from the athletes, coaches and staff who are both on our screens and behind the scenes. Further to this, we want to delve deeper into the neurodiverse and physical disabilities of our guests and learn out what it takes to be where they are and put it out there so we can inspire others. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Tatjana. Tatjana, how are you?
I'm pretty good, Greg. Thank you. We've had a bit of a weird weather situation in the Netherlands, so just kind of been chilling while it's pissing it down after being like 35 degrees. But pretty good. How are you?
Excellent. Pretty much the same. We've had 4 weeks of glorious sunshine, and then the last 2 days it's just rained. So I've had lots of time to get the garden done and get the housework done and keep Mrs. M happy. And other than that, it's been pretty good. So yeah, all good so far.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I hope that the weather doesn't get better as my exams start, because then that will be really depressing. So I hope it carries on raining.
Yeah, you've got a big couple of weeks coming up, is that right?
Yeah, I do indeed. Here in the Netherlands, they have quite a different education and examination system than back at home. So it's a bit stressful right now, but it's fine. We're going to get through it. So yeah.
Nice. Well, obviously me and the rest of the listeners wish you the best of luck. Hopefully they go well. So Tatjana, today we are joined by another very special guest. Do you want to let us know who it is?
From only really being interested in reading matchday programs as a child to now coaching at England, we will find out more about his journey with rugby and all the factors that played a role in where he is now. So ladies and gentlemen, today we have Tom Harrison with us. But before he joins, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, reach out to us on our Instagram, and get a drink, put your headphones in, maybe even speakers, and let's get started.
Welcome. As you can see, everybody, we are joined by England's scrum coach, former Leicester Tigers coach. I'm not going to name all his clubs because the old joke used to be he's got more clubs than Tiger Woods. But we are joined by a good friend of mine, Tom Harrison. Tom, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, mate. Really looking forward to discussing some topics here.
Mate, we're going to get straight into it. We want to learn a little bit about you and about where you've got yourself to now. So just give the listeners a little bit of an insight into who Tom Harrison is.
Who Tom Harrison is? That's a good one. So look, I'm a husband and a father first. In terms of my family and how important that is to me. I come from a big family myself, and I'm well supported in that stock. But in terms of professionally, I am a rugby coach, and I'm passionate for helping people achieve things that potentially they didn't realise possible, achieve goals that they've set and that aspiration to it. So currently working with the England first team, helping guys at that level, but have worked throughout the pathway. So I think I started working at Leicester in 2017. Previously, before that, I was a professional rugby player. I wasn't. I was a full-time rugby player. I probably wasn't professional in my behaviours. And then I've learned that through coaching. So then that was 2017 as a volunteer within their pathway, and then climb the ladder into working at an ACE college. So an institute that is provides a rugby provision for players who are aspiring to be full-time professionals, but also studying a BTEC. And it's actually something I did myself in my journey, where I used sport to get an education, and then progressed there into the first team, and worked with some really good coaches, worked with some really good coach developers. I actually met Greg in 2000. Was it 2017, 2016? It might have been 2016.
2016 we met.
Yeah. And we had a relationship, and then we rekindled our relationship a few years later, and worked together at Leicester. And then, I worked with Coach Steve Borthwick and Richard Wigglesworth and Kevin Sinfield, and then they progressed into the England team. And then I've kind of followed suit with them in this mini coaching team we've had that's worked at Premiership level and international level, and just tried to add value and develop with those guys. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Mate, that's a great introduction. And you know what? We've known each other. I was thinking about this before. So we're on 9 years now this year. And I'll tell the story to the listeners about how we actually met. Was I'd got the job first at Loughborough College doing the rugby league programme, and we needed a rugby union coach. And the guys was like, "Can you help appoint the rugby union coach?" So I was like, "Yeah, not a problem." So watched a lot of people come in. And this guy came in. Pretty sure he had his Bath t-shirt on, so he's representing, his Southwest heritage probably. And just saw this really, really good beard, and I thought that's a cracking beard. And don't know what he coached, but his beard was good, so I said to appoint him. Now Tom came in and did a session which was the complete opposite to everybody else. So he did a complete opposite session, completely threw the whole thing on its head, and it was a given he was always going to get that job. And then I think since then, mate, I think we've probably been on the phone to each other probably more at times than we were to our wives and that over the time. We had been on the phone a lot and spent a lot of time with each other, which has obviously helped Tom and myself in terms of just becoming better at what we do. So that's why for me it's a really important show today to get Tom on, because I definitely couldn't be where I am without Tom. I'm not sure necessarily I've got Tom to England, but I think I've helped him. I think I might have challenged him now and again. So
no, mate, definitely. I still recall, and it's probably something to do around that dyslexia part of me. Is you were coaching something at Brooksby, and you were coaching it from a language point of view of a rugby league, and I was arguing with you that you were coaching the wrong thing, and we were actually coaching the same thing, but because of the terminology that was resonating in my head with the language you were using, I couldn't picture it. So when we're discussing it, and I'm going, mate, you're wrong. Like, why would you do that? Why did you do that? And it was sheerly just not an understanding of shared communication, but also me not being able to compute the vision that was in your head. That was different in my head. And then kind of like went to on the pitch and we were seeing it. Going, actually, I understand that. But it literally is probably one of these mishaps in communication. There's loads of stuff that I've taken. And the stuff I look back at that environment we had and the way we were cared for what we were doing. We all had different reasons why we were there. We all spent a lot of time on the programme. But like the idea of actually trying to help people again achieve what they could achieve, and that we had a set of staff that were dedicated to try and go above and beyond. And I still don't, other than potentially the environment I'm in now, at the coach I'm working with now, there haven't been many coaches I've seen that are aligned to try and achieve things, especially when I text them on a Sunday late at night saying this is the plan. And the feedback, any feedback for the programme, can you stop messaging us on a Sunday night? Yeah, okay, I'll do that one.
So instead it was Monday morning at like 6 or 5 o'clock in the morning, weren't it?
Yeah.
Now it's interesting. Obviously, we talked there about you being dyslexic, and for a long time we probably didn't know that. But when we watched you as a coach and when we were in your environment, you were deeply caring for people who were coming into the educational environment who seemed to have those educational struggles. Is that because you understood what they were going through? Is that because you've experienced it yourself? What made you become that caring towards those, especially those sort of students?
I guess it is the bit around labels, tags. I can't do that because he's this, can't do that because he's that. And actually they're just I use the phrase like I'm a 100-meter runner and it's a hurdle in the way. So it'd probably be me being able to look at that person and resonate with, okay, what is it they need? And if you're coaching someone and the way's not working, then it's your job as a coach to find a way to make it work, and find a different approach. And it's something I'm still doing now, especially with like I'm learning about some of our players. I learned one of our players has dyspraxia last summer, and it was dyspraxia around how he organises his thinking, his scheduling, his timetabling, and it was a conversation I had with his mum post the game. And this bloke's in his late 20s, and then I'm working with him, and just changed the way I worked, just changed the way I looked at him, probably changed the way we perceived him as a management team, a coaching team, and just kind of a bit like, okay, well, if he struggles with this, what can we put in place strategy wise to make sure he needs to know where he's going, he needs to get his jobs done. And it was stuff like, and it's so weird, like in my phone book there's certain people I've met, and I've only got one number. You have work phone stuff, I've got one number, because it's easy for me to organise. I used to have two phones. I never used one of the phones. It was actually, that phone was only for people at Brooksby would call that number, like staff, and I'd never pick it up. It was actually, everything was on the other phone. And I saved, when I moved into the England environment, because I had loads of numbers that were priority England players and management. I'd put like a little rose next to their name, so I knew where they worked when it was coming through on a WhatsApp. So when he passed me his phone once, as this player, he had 1,000 unread WhatsApp messages, and I'm looking at him being like, and he doesn't reply to anyone, like he just doesn't reply. But in his head, it's like that comes in, he sees it, okay, cool, and then he'll forget about it. So then I just said, put like a red rose next to a few names, and these guys are the guys you have to reply to. If they message you, you reply to them within that day, sort of thing. That being said, he replied to me, so I think he's now taken my name off the red rose. But what happened is I then met his wife after a game, and she was telling me, well, I said his wife, his girlfriend, and now fiance. She was telling me, oh, he's got this thing on his phone where he puts a rose next to everyone's name that he needs to reply to. And I started laughing, and she went, why are you laughing? And I showed her my phone. And it was that this realization of like just the way, because I'm also dyspraxic, but the way of like the thinking, organising thoughts around that in terms of not the coaching part, but the management of life, and actually if we can put this strategy in place off pitch, how that can benefit him in what he's doing. But it was interesting to see her like saying, oh yeah, he now replies to these people, and actually seeing that that comes to fruition was quite an interesting way, and just how they organise their thoughts.
I mean, that's so good in terms of the idea that you've come up with to share, and the fact that you've trialed it, you've used it, and you go, right, this really works, and I think this might help you. And you were talking on our podcast, it comes out quite a lot, but you're basically identifying people have a reason for why they behave the way they do, but they don't have an excuse. And you are 100% that already, and I'm sure the listeners will find that out as we go through the conversation. But you never have an excuse for why something happens. You might have your reasons, but you never use it as an excuse. So I think that's really, really good what you've just shared already with us. And I'm really interested to know, Tom, is like, how did you find that method out?
I don't know, mate. Again, it's like people say people with dyslexia, like out of the box thinking, creative thinking, as a strength. And I think it's just one of these things that was like, well, why would you not? Why would you not put a rose next to someone's name? Like he works there, and it works like this way. And you see people do it with like loved ones, don't they? They put love art next to their name and stuff. I guess it was probably just that way of seeing that idea and that thinking, which is something I just thought this would work. That being said, I haven't got it on everyone's numbers, because obviously I had the people's numbers before I went to England, so I probably need to change that before they look at my phone and be like, do you not care?
Yeah, I'd be like, I wonder what you've got next to mine.
Yeah, you don't want to know, mate. You don't want to know. But that was the thinking. And I've always been, I guess I do. It's interesting. People go, oh, you think differently? And I'm like, well, no, I think the way I think.
Yeah.
How would I have known that I think differently to how you think? Because I can only think one way. Like that's the only way I've been thinking. And you learn when you suddenly sit in a room and everyone's staring at you going, and you're looking at them being like, how can you not see it?
Yeah.
Like, how can you not see it this way? And they're looking at you be like, that's a brilliant idea. Or mate, what are you doing? And I'm going like, there's times we've had coaching meetings where I'm computing things in my head being like, that doesn't work. But like the lads, like part of my role is to make the session run. So we'll have a session plan, and it'll be my job to make sure we're all in the right places, everything's on the field and we're moving. And it's because I can sit in a room and just visualize it in my head of how it looks and how it's going to work quite quickly. One is because I've done it loads, but two, I think it is down to how I'm wired. But yeah, but the lads will call me Rayman because I'll be sitting there and suddenly I'll just be like, or they'll be like, they'll ask a question, they'll be like, oh, can we do this? And I'll be like, yep. And in that moment, I've worked out all the numbers and who's going where and the changes. Part of it is like my prep before the meeting. I know what's going on and I have an idea. So then I'm just working off this visual plan in my head. But sometimes I can't articulate it. So I can't get it out, get it across. So then what I'll do is without overcomplicating it. So I'll just say to lads and coaches, yeah, they'll be like, can we make it work? I'll be like, yeah, leave it with me. Like I can make it work. I think sometimes they want me to tell them how to make it work and I can't actually get that across as clearly and precisely. Other times I've done it and I'll be like, yeah, I'll make that work. And I've actually just overcomplicated it. And then one of the other coaches has just gone, oh, why don't you just do this? I'm like, that's brilliant. I didn't think of that. Because in your head, you're spinning plates. But yeah, I don't know where I came up with that strategy of this. It's just a way, again, a way of going, okay, well, you're not replying to people. And there's an image here that you need to, like, you don't care. I know that's not the case. So then what's a strategy? Like, who are the people you need to reply to? X, Y, and Z. And try to do it that way, or how do you meet a player before a day, or who doesn't understand the schedule and timings and stuff, and you go in, okay, well he might not. And look, I get it wrong. So I'd very rarely write on a whiteboard because my handwriting's horrendous. I think Arthur, my 5-year-old now, can write my birthday cards. Like he can. My twin brother. So there's a few bits. My twin brother. So my twin brother would write a birthday card, and my O's would be like almost back to front. So what he would do is he put his hand in his left hand pen, and he'd be able to write my name on like my mum's birthday cards. So he'd sort of all my cards, and he'd be like, "Yeah, Tom, I've done it." And then they'll send, and they've got like there's a WhatsApp group where they send pictures of them using my handwriting, but it's always with their left hand, like just taking the mickey. And that, I guess, that's probably the resilience of it. Like I've grown up in that environment where that's what it's been. But yeah, so you won't see me write on a whiteboard. So then and part of our big thing is using whiteboards to get information across. Actually, one of our staff said to me, he went, "Do you really think people care? Do they really people think people care about your handwriting?" I'm like, no, but I guess there's a point of like my perception of people thinking they care, but then also their ability to, if it's that bad, not get the information. So I would use like the scribe. So I'd get like I'd get one of the young lads to write the board. It was really interesting. The other day we were in a meeting in the front row, and there's a player in there who's had a good education, good school, good rugby school as well. And I'll make you write on the whiteboard. And he stands up and he goes, "Yep." He went, "I'm dyslexic." Oh, I sunk in my seat, mate. I sunk in my seat because I just went, oh, one I should know. Like he's one of my boys, I should know. Two, I've been that guy.
Yeah,
and it's just like a horrible feeling that I've put him in this position. And he could write, it's brilliant. But his defense straight away was, "Boom, I'm dyslexic, so don't take the mick out of me." And I was fortunate when I was first started coaching with the men. I was on the whiteboard and someone went to take the mick out of my spelling, or I used a presentation, someone took the mick out of my spelling, and one of the hardest blokes in the room was dyslexic and got stuck into him. And then from that moment on, I was like, "Hey, well, I'm dyslexic, we get on with it." And when I joined England, I was pretty open. Obviously there's stuff in the press, but I was open and said, "Look, I'm dyslexic, so I'm going to spell things wrong. I might miss a word when I text you, but deal with it. That's the way it's going to be." And I think from then on, I think it's been that way. Like if I do presentations, and they'll normally get one of the other coaches will look over it. One of the guys I was getting looking over it was also dyslexic. So he's like, "Yeah, it looks brilliant, mate." And it was just like, "Oh, mate." But yeah, so that'll be a thing. So I think when I'm dyslexic, the bits I really struggle with are that the reading, the writing, being the big ones. So I'll read words. I'll Well, if they look like a word, then I'll do that, or my spelling. So I spend a lot of time if I'm typing stuff out or I'm working. Will be I'll be putting in spell checking everything I do. Well, not everything. I try to. I use a lot of. So when I'm coding games now on the software we've got, I use like I talk to it. So there's a setup where I can just click and press my mic, and I'll be like, X, Y, and Z needs to run hard onto the ball here. Boom, new line, and it'll type. And part of that, like part of the way technology is now, is all built into computers. But when I was at uni, I got given a thing called Dragon Naturally Speaking. We actually had it at Loughborough. We got it at Loughborough. They got it for me, but then I left. But it was to mark work, so I could just speak into it and it'd write the text instead of me having to type everything out. Because I went on loads of touch typing courses, but the touch typing course, we'll teach you touch type, but it was still hard to compute for me. Going, okay, well, my issue is not the touch typing. My issue is the spelling. So if I can't spell a word, I'm not going to be able to type it any faster than writing it. Or do you know what I mean? So it was like this whole thing I was going, just do the laptop touch typing course, fixed it. I'm like, well, I still can't spell.
Like you're still touch typing, but it'll be wrong. Like it's
yeah. So then crazy, using that, and I guess that's part of like the whole way through, like the whole way through school. I'd be examining a different room. I'd have extra time. Uni, I'd have the same. Uni, I'd had a scribe because my writing was pretty poor. Or I'd do it on like a laptop. Best one is like, so when you go through the things, like so, an occupational therapist stuff at school, and you learn like, oh, you're dyslexic, and your mum takes you, and then everyone goes, okay, well, what do we do with him? I had some real cool teachers try things out, like writing words on my back, this sense of feel. Didn't work. I used to have like green glasses because be able to read better. If I'm honest, I think I chose green because it's one of my favorite colors. Like rather than they're like when you're doing the test, they're like, "Oh, did that one look better?" I'm like, no, green. Yeah, it looks loads better. But the idea of actually being able to have like there's overlays on colors, so you can see it better than black and white. So I had all this stuff when I was growing up, and loads of people really helped me. And teachers tried to help me. This guy called Mr. Morris, who was my English teacher. He once marked my work and he got really upset. And I was like, saying to my mum, it's unfair. Struggling with this. And again, it was the way I computed it. And what it was there was a line in a red pen going through my work. So I'm looking at it being like, he's just crossed out my work. But actually, it was the smallest tick. But because it was in a red pen, I was like, it's wrong. He's marked it as wrong because it's in a red pen. So I got upset over something that was like, it's because I'm struggling with my dyslexia and it's this and this, and I'm playing the victim when actually he was marking it right. But he did a lot of stuff where he helped me with that, and was like around the English stuff was brilliant, accommodating to my needs. But then as I got into uni, it was then when you get to uni, you have to like retest because I think it's more financial stuff, and you've have dyslexia than you don't have dyslexia apparently. But I did there's two things. Well, if you ever want to be dyslexic, when you walk into a door that says push, just pull it and give it one of those, and then they straight away go, yeah, he's passed the test. But I went and did the test, and it was like, they give you like a reading age. You have to read how many words, paragraphs. And then they did a writing score, like how many words you write. So they go, I'll write a paper. I don't know if I told you this, Greg. It's like write a paper on something. And I wrote a paper about being a rugby referee, which is simple. Bam, off I go. Subject I know, bam, 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 bam. And then they gave me the paper back at the end of it, and I'm sat in the food hall, and a mate of mine, a guy called Tom Calladine, he was like a year. He split his last year, I think. We failed his last year. He was at uni, but he was older than me, but we spent a lot of time together at uni. Like he was a third year, but lived on site my first year, sort of thing. He's reading this paper, and he's like, "Mate, you do realise you spelt referee wrong?" So the whole paper was on this thing about writing for referee, and I spelled it completely wrong. And it was that moment I think they were like, yeah, mate, I have a laptop, Dragon Naturally Speaking, extra time, scribe, writer, you have whatever you need.
how did you, I mean, yeah, very bottom, like, how did you even find out you are dyslexic? How did you was it just about like, oh, can't read, I need help?
Yeah, so again, I'm obviously a twin. I'm one of five and I'm the youngest.
Oh, wow.
So I guess I got I say, a like to be compared by. So imagine your first child and your parents got you, and it's like, oh, and this is, we're going back, I'm not that old, but we're going back a few years now, where you think now teachers are more informed, understand things. So like my wife's a teacher and she'll say to me like, we should teach everyone as if they're dyslexic, because if it works for a dyslexic person, it's highly likely to work for everyone. But what we do is we teach everyone and then go, oh, he's dyslexic, let's do him differently. So almost like trying to flip it on its head, what I found quite interesting and probably influenced some of the stuff I do. But yeah, I remember, so obviously I don't remember, my mum tells the story of my twin brother. He was drawing on the wall, and he wrote my name. And then when he turns around, mum goes, who's written on the wall? And Sam goes, oh, it was Tom, look, he's written his name. And my mum's like, Tom can't write. Like, it's not Tom, he can't write. So that was probably the first warning. That was first the warning sign. I guess when I got to school, there's a lot around. Now they do read, write, ink, and there's ongoing assessments. My reading speed wasn't brilliant, and what you do is you go, I'm not doing, like, you don't do the things you're good at school. Like, it's subconscious in your body. It's very rare people go, I'm going to carry on doing that. Like, you get taught to do that. So it just got worse and worse and worse. Then I went and had tests, occupational therapists, and tests around it, and I scored really highly in the short-term memory test. And what it was is they gave you like a load of like score, like he would say to you like triangle, circle, X, square, and he would go through these patterns. But I pretended I had in my hand under the table. Afterwards, my mum said, "What were you doing?" And I was imagining holding a PlayStation controller. So as he was reading out the things, I was doing the buttons. So then he'd say it back to me, and then I'll just redo the code back to him. And then afterwards, the bloke was like, well, the doctor, not the bloke, the doctor was like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, he's so low in all these things, but this one's through the roof. And then my mum was like, well, this is what he was doing. So again, just a coping mechanism of how I'll visualize it into something that I can know and represent and do it. And then, yeah, so I tests that basically came back dyslexic and then put a plan in place. There's a bit around the dyspraxia. Not really sure how they worked out both. I think it was within these tests they were doing. The bit of the dyspraxia was quite funny. Under eights, like rugby, I just stopped playing. And I was like, oh, I want to do contact, just touch rugby. It's this, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm quitting rugby, it's rubbish. It was all because I couldn't catch, because of my hand-eye coordination around being dyspraxic. But then I was like, no, I'm not doing it. What I didn't realise is, like, okay, so mum's always down the rugby club, helping with the food and the sweet shops and all the stuff there. And dad's a rugby coach. And my twin brother's playing. So, all right, Tom, you can come down, but you just have to go and play in the corner on your own. So then suddenly, within about 5 weeks, I was like, okay, I'll carry on doing it. But that was like I don't even think it was 5 weeks. So that was how I kind of like realized it. I guess the difference being like, so dyspraxia is normally around like the development and coordination disorders. And that will come in, it can come in different forms. So like you see a lot of hand-eye coordination, but then also the ability to plan and schedule can also have an effect on that, where dyslexia links more to around the reading and writing and processing of information and instruction.
I know it was about coordination, but I also thought it was about numbers.
Yes, there's the number one is dyscalculus.
Right.
But again, that's what happens with, I think, with anything, and I don't know, and someone will shoot me down for this, but you go like, oh, they're dyspraxic, and then it's okay, well, there's different types of dyspraxia. Oh, well, let's make a new one. And let's make a new one. And then they go, okay, now it's neurodiversity, and it's a head thing. Like, well, like, and my wife's pretty sure I've got ADHD. I've definitely got ADHD somewhere. Someone thinks I'm autistic at work, and I'm like, I probably have. Like, But when it was coming through, it was like dyslexic was the test, so I was dyslexic. But I think you do need to have that idea of things. But I think there was a bit around the label of neurodiversity.
Nice. Now, just want to jump in on something you were saying, because I have remembered my question from a while ago. Having worked with Tom, the one thing that I would definitely say is one of his strengths is his ability to create a visual representation of what it is he wants to do. So Tom will know he does cueing, and he'll be able to tell us how he audio booked Winkleman and people like that, and the stuff like that. But that is Tom's strength. Tom, do you think that's partly because of the way you process the information though as well? Because you've talked in some of this already about how you can visualize things and then kind of bring it to life. And you talked about before about how you don't always say a lot. Now, I've watched you coach. I know when you're coaching, as an example, on the line outs, when we used to do the line out practice and you were teaching me, and you'd be thinking like, hit the trampoline or jump on the bottle, whatever it would be. And it was just so easy for the players to pick up. Do you think that's part of it?
Yeah. Look, I think there's part of that, and I think there's part of like my development of listening to people and going, okay, what's the best way how to teach movement? Like you can get people to overthink. I think where it comes easy to me is probably because it's not. I say easy for me. Where it becomes better for me is probably suits the way I think. I'm always thinking you look at, I think there's studies that said around dyslexic people, they think more in images. They're think more in visualization of stuff. That's a great way of how they think. So probably that is subconsciously, without knowing, that is probably something that's influenced. Like I'd naturally coach in pictures and try and coach in words and let my words try and create a picture in their head, because that's ultimately what you're trying to do. It probably is, Greg. I wouldn't know. I haven't deliberately gone, oh, this is the best way. Like I'm only learning about how I think as a dyslexic thinker by now coaching people and going, right, what's the best way to coach people? And you find out later on going, oh, if you had a dyslexic person, so there are a few now where they're doing loads of stuff around neurodiversity and how to coach and education, what I think is brilliant. I'm actually hopefully going to be involved in some of the stuff more just out of a pure passion. But yeah, I think it comes from now learning on how to coach and then going, oh, actually, that's how I think. And the two are connected, rather than me going, as a dyslexic person, this is the best way to work with me, because it's that there could be really strong and powerful, I think. But I don't know what is the best way because I've never worked with me. To sit there without trying to dodge the answer, so I don't really know.
That's fair enough, mate. That's completely understandable. And but again, at the same time, I think from an outsider, like working closer with you, being around you, that definitely would be a strength. But listening to the way then you talk and the way you try and explain things, it definitely makes me go that being dyslexic has become a strength of yours, whether you've realised it or not. As much as people would potentially sometimes think of it as more of a struggle. But it's definitely been what I would say is a strength in developing you and the way which you do your coaching craft, but also probably how you become such a caring person, because you've definitely got that empathy towards the people around you. And by the sounds of the way you're talking, that's because you've understood how it can feel to be in them moments, but also understanding that you've built relationships, because that makes things a little bit more easier, or maybe not easier, but it makes you, like you would say, easy is not the right word. You say it just makes it better for you and then for them in relationships. So I think that's really, really, really good, mate.
Yeah, I'm finding it really interesting how, we all think differently, no matter if you have dyslexia or not. Like we all think differently, and it's like, because one of our questions at the end, the quick, they're not really quick, the quick fire questions. One of the questions is, what's your strength? And the whole time you've been speaking, I was like, that is his strength. Having dyslexia is his strength when it comes to coaching, and also just all the information and stuff like that. So I don't think I'll be even asking that question now, but just really interesting. And yeah, how you think and how it's just making everything better. So that's really got me thinking, how do I think? How do we all think? But that's really cool.
And I think part of it as well is like it's not so some of the stuff like coaching in pictures, it's not by chance. Like there's work, there's planning that goes back into it. There's understanding, and part of being dyspraxic is what quite interesting. I was reading this thing about how do you coach someone with dyspraxia, and it's like chunk the skills, so make it so they're bite-sized, processable. I'm going, well, and any good coach would do that anyway. So then you go in, well, actually, it's what you do. So then I guess that's part of like a bit what my wife spoke about, Bethan, and actually is not sure. Should we? And I'm probably biased to this, but like if we understood how dyslexic people and dyspraxic people and other things work, then should we not weight our coaching towards that? Like, is that not a better way, or are there tools that we're not using in coaching and teaching that would help everyone? Would probably be a worthwhile for someone, not me, worthwhile for someone to actually look at it and go, actually, are we painting everyone with a brush? And I'm not to paint everyone with a brush, but are we painting everyone with a brush and then going, right, we'll dot these guys? Or actually, should we not, to some degree, paint the colour that we've dotted with? And then we actually get the same outcome. Maybe we shouldn't paint anyone with a brush. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting you say that though, because we had Tony Fretwell on one of our previous episodes, and he said exactly the same. He said, like, if we were to coach everybody as if they were autistic, then we'd probably find there's a lot more ways we can develop everybody collectively rather than identifying somebody as being different for the neurodiversity. And it was just, it's the same way in which you're talking there. It's like we're potentially labeling people and we're giving them this label and almost a reason as to why they are, but actually we don't need to consider anything different other than if we make everybody learn in a very similar way, that might be more beneficial. So I know one of my thought processes has been, and it's probably been via working with Tom, and then currently one member of staff in the environment I'm in is also dyslexic, is the fact that my PowerPoint presentations don't tend to be on a white background. I try and put a color onto the actual presentation to try and help make sure it's more visible. And then the other thing I've probably tried to do is, from that learning, is also tried to put on like a color coordination so that sometimes it's easier for people to be able to see just the information they need to see and know where to look at it, because the color kind of identifies that. Now, again, that's not necessarily me going, I only pick green because Tom likes green, but it might be that I do put these colors on because I think it will help everybody, but it'll also support those who need that little bit more support. So I think it's really interesting, but I definitely agree with what you say. I think it's a really good way of looking at how you become, not just you, like us in general, but how we coach and how we develop people by maybe thinking on the broader spectrum rather than just the traditional, this is the old school way of delivering.
Yeah.
Now, the other question I do have for you, Tom, is, and you've kind of touched upon it a little bit, but within your environments and within your life, who helps you? Because, I mean, I think I got a good idea who might help you, but who helps you to be the best version of yourself? Because you do a lot of it yourself, but I've got a feeling people are in different environments supporting you constantly.
Yeah, look, I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky. I've got a very supportive family, and that was my initial family as a kid. And then growing my family into Bethan and the two kids and her family, very understanding. I think throughout everything, like I've had some teachers who've developed coping mechanisms without me realizing that stuff. I think now when I go into the coaching domain, I worked with a coach developer when, again, at 2017, I tell the story, you were there, Greg. We're out on the back pitch, Denson School. There's you, me, Jamie Taylor and Mike Ashford. And Mike Ashford is starting out he's doing he might have been doing his masters at the time, so maybe not starting out, but he's doing coach development. And then he's gone on to be a doctor, and he's worked through the system, and he now works the RFU in the pathway. So I do a lot of work with him, and then I do a lot of work with Jamie Taylor, who's also gone on to be a doctor in talent development space. And so I always reference back to 2017 when we all sat out on the back thing in Denston on the pitch, and then they're actually now where we're all in different walks of life, but we've kind of come full circle back together. They've been very good, and again, lucky that I started my coach education with Dickon Edwards. So Dickon Edwards was also there that day actually, and he was head of UK coach development at the time. So you've got these guys who've been there and done stuff, and then fall into a coaching team with guys like Kevin Sinfield, who's the most caring man I've probably ever met, other than you, Greg. But he's brilliant, and seeing the way he interacts with people and going, how does he do that, and what can I add to it? Working with Steve, who's just meticulous in his planning, and his ability just to probably he probably coaches people as if they're dyslexic. So how do you make the complex simple, and how do we simplify it? How do we chunk it? How do we make it simple? And then working with Wiggy, obviously through his tactical and technical stuff, is second to none of how he's experienced the game. So I think there's no one person. There is stuff around being dyslexic and having dyslexia where you can get hyper focused on one thing. Like my wife always says to me, like, with your rugby and your work, I wish you just do a little bit of that with the cleaning. Like, you just bring a little bit of that into the cleaning. Can you have that bit? Well, she'll give me a task and I'll say to her, can you put it in a list? The reason I'm asking to put it on a list is just so that I know what needs to be done, because I will start something and then I'll be in, and I'm in this rabbit hole going, and then something will pop up on my screen. You'll get an email and you'll get my attention will go to the email, and then I'm going, okay, well, actually I need to do this, and then you'll forget about things. And it's the same when I'm in the house. The amount of times I've started hoovering, I've got, okay, well, I've done that, but I need to do the dishes. And I'll come back and the hoover, Greg knows, but the hoover's left out, and it's just like my way of just moving across things. So I guess those guys all help me. I think in the early ages, like some of the teachers I had, my parents been really supportive. It not being an excuse.
Yeah.
But here's a coping mechanism, but you got to get it done. It's not, oh, don't do that. He doesn't do that. So this is a way around it. It's probably underpinned a lot of the way I think, like even now as a coach, your job as a coach is to prepare and get the information across to the players, and improve them. And everyone's differently. So how do you treat them equally but different?
And look, this is not a Tom Harrison loving show, but the truth is like Tom's probably one of the hardest working coaches I've actually ever come across. So where Tom's talking about trying to get these messages across, when we were working together, some of our conversations would be days long for a 10-minute thing we're going to share with the players, with probably an argument in between. So there would always be Tom would be first in, last out. And I know Tom, if I got in the day after him a bit earlier, I knew the day what come after it, he would be in even early to try and win that competition, because Tom wants to be the best at what he does. That's just the way he is. But I also love the irony of, and I can make this joke because I know Tom, but the dyslexic person who asks his wife to write a list, just the irony of what you've done there.
Yeah. I was thinking about it, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, interesting.
Yeah. I was like, so actually she's asked you to do the vacuuming and you've probably done the polishing, but it's fine because you've done a job for him.
Just taking the first and last letter of it and being like, yeah, that's a job, I'll do that.
That looks like, yeah. But no, mate, that's really good. And again, I appreciate you sharing those stories and those your understanding and your development, because again, the idea behind this podcast is that we just want people to learn and listen and be able to understand that it doesn't matter if we do have some form of neurodiversity, or like with some of our guests, you have a physical disability. You have the ability to go out there and become what it is you want to become. You just have to be aware that you might have to think differently. You may have to just do something slightly different. There might be some subtle changes, but also, and you're epitomizing this, and so of the other guests, if you embrace what it is about you and accept it rather than use it as that excuse, you can do whatever you want. And like again, you and the other guests are definitely evidence of that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's I'd never heard the phrase neurodiversity. I've never heard of it, mate. Till about 2 years ago, a year ago. And there's a guy I met. He came in to watch his coach and our environment, and then he was talking about how his company's big company in London. He said they are intentionally trying to pick people who are neurodiversity because of the difference of thinking within their environment. Well, I was like brilliant. Well, that's a brilliant way of looking at it. But I'd underpin that message with, just because you're dyslexic, or just because someone said you're dyslexic, or you think you're dyslexic, or it doesn't, like, you still have to go and work hard, and you still have to be so good that people don't ignore you at what you do. It's not a case of like, I'm dyslexic, give me a job because I think differently. Like, you still got to be able to deliver. I think that's the bit that comes around to me around the development of coping mechanisms to then be able to do the job. It's not an excuse in it. It's finding a way around it. And that might take more work. It might take more planning. It might take asking for help. It might take whatever it takes, but you find a way to make it work rather than going, I can't do that because of this.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That's a brilliant message.
Yeah, I like how both of you guys said, or like have this rule that it's not an excuse. It's just a part of you, but it's not an excuse to not do something or to do something, etc. And it sounds like both. Well, I know Greg does. That's like a rule in your house when it comes to Noah as well, which we have an episode with Noah as well. And yeah, it's just I just hope that listeners also pick up on that and just maybe introduce that into their day-to-day life as well, because it just makes you, well, by the sounds of it, just makes you feel better. I don't know if that's the right word, but like function better maybe, or just like not go into that deep hole of self-doubting thoughts. And
you can easily go there. I remember as a kid, and this is going back to that one, Mr. Morris marking my pen. And I remember saying to my mum, like, it's unfair. My mum looking at me like, what are you on about? It's unfair. It's unfair. Because the thing is, like, you're saying stuff's unfair. And look, you can change the way you do things, but you can't change it. Like, as much as I said earlier about it's not a label, we're like, well, you're dyslexic. So deal with it, find a way. But at the time, I was like, it's unfair. It's too hard for me. It's this, and I remember exactly where I was in my mum and dad's house now, and on the front lawn, she's putting the washing out, and I'm just going, that's X, Y, it's this, it's that, and mum being like understanding, but and empathy, but just go, okay, well, what are we gonna do about it? And turns out I got the answers right anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Because it's almost like another language. At times, not deliberately, but that's the feeling of going, oh, okay, I've got to think about this. I've really got to think about this. That thinking feeling would be the same to learning a new language as it is to that alphabet. Is kind of a way of putting it across.
In Serbia, it's really interesting, like especially when it comes to spelling and stuff. In Serbia, it's like you say a word, you spell it how you say it, and you read it how you write it. Basically, it's like that one. Whereas in English, it's you have W's that sound or don't sound at all. You have PH and blah. I'm somewhere okay, Greg might say otherwise, but it's like when it comes to spelling and stuff, it's really different. So yeah,
the way I would say dyslexia is very similar to what you're talking about there. So like I would have been, is that when you learn a language, you're learning it, you're behind everyone. As a kid at school, that's how I would have. So the experience you probably felt coming over and being like, what's going on, new language. Like you can talk, like when you learn to speak it, and I say this in the context, I did a year in France, and
so
learn to speak French. And it wasn't to the end of the year that I was like, oh yeah, I can speak French now, and I still do bits. Although when we went to the World Cup, I spoke French and they all spoke English back to me. And at that point, Wiggy was like, mate, your French is so bad. They just speak English to you.
Yeah.
Like, when you learn to speak the language and then they go, all right, now you got to try and write the language. And the spelling of it, and you go, well, I can speak it and it works fine. I've got to a level where I'm okay at speaking stuff, but as soon as you go to the writing or like trying to read, it just becomes a different bit. And I guess that's probably that part when you were in that in terms of learning English, that's where I spent my early childhood, is going, I can speak, but my reading and writing isn't brilliant. So then what happened is Mum, actually it was Mr. Morris, my English teacher, he's like, get him to read what he likes reading. So it was like rugby programs, rugby stuff. And it was like, that's what, yeah. So then that's how I would learn to read.
I tell you what, just on that, sorry, just wanted to, it's a really interesting one on that. And we've been doing it with Isla to help her with some of her reading. If we put the subtitles on the telly for the programs that she likes watching, so she watches it, she can hear it speak, but the subtitles are on. And subconsciously, she's been able to process some of the actual words and be able to understand the spellings and how it all connects. It's a really interesting little tool that we've tried, and it seems to have helped her quite a bit.
Are you thinking when you're in your head, when you're speaking?
Yeah.
Are you thinking in Serbian, and then translating it to English, or are you thinking in English?
When I came to England, I used to think in Serbian and translate it and say it in English. But I don't do that anymore. And I don't do that in Serbian when I'm speaking Serbian. But then sometimes when I'm speaking Russian, I'm thinking Serbian in my head, and then I'll say it in Russian.
But I remember coming back from France, and just at the end of my time in France, I was thinking in French. And it was like, everything was like, because the language I was trying to speak in the conversations was in French. Then when I came back, I was like, this is weird.
Couldn't have been that bad if you're thinking in French.
No, I am compared. French is a strange language because the words have genders. Like every word has a gender.
Yeah.
And I just
same in Serbian and Russian.
Yeah, and I couldn't get past it. And then you speak to some people aren't willing to understand. So if you get it wrong, they're like, mate, what are you on about? And it's like la or la. You're like, come on, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying car, mate. I'm saying Vitura. I'm saying car. You know I'm talking about a car. It doesn't matter what gender the car is. I'm talking about the car. But I like couldn't get over that bit in my head. But it's their language, so they're like, yeah, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I
first spoke French at Leicester. It was to a referee. And I don't think any of our coaches realised I could speak bits of French. So then we're suddenly walking down, and then I'm speaking to the referee in French, and all the coaches are looking at me going, "What's going on here?" But
I only learned Tom could speak French was when Taff said something at dinner, and I chuckled at him speaking French, and you and him then had a full-on conversation in French about me, and I had no idea what you were talking about, and then I was like, "What the hell?" And you were like, "Yeah, I speak French as well." I was like, "Oh." Like two big front rowers just taking mick out me in French, probably. But yeah, that was when I learned you could speak it.
Yeah.
So this might be a really stupid question, but like, how hard was it to learn French, especially when reading and spelling?
So I do that. What you just did.
What?
This might be a really stupid question, like the perception. So I'll go. Like this might be one of my weird ideas. I always wonder to myself, am I doing that for me, or am I doing that just to settle the group before I ask a question?
Settle the group.
But then do you devalue it? Do you devalue what's then coming because they go, oh, you've said, oh, it's gonna be weird. But anyway, your question, that was that's where my brain going. Harder to learn French. Yeah, really hard. I had to when I was over there, I was playing, and basically like it's all French coaching. And I'll be at the front of the queue for like the drill you're about to do, and then they're like speaking French at you, and you go, oh, back to the line. I'll watch them do it again, learning the mechanism. I'll watch them do it, and then I'll do it. To the lad I lived with was English. I went to uni with him, and then there's a few others who would help translate. We would have lessons. Part of I had to go and coach. I had to go and coach kids, but luckily there's an English kid who was living in France who could speak French. He was in my group, so he'd help me, and a lot of it is the confidence to then do it. But yeah, living in there, you have to, and you just build phrases, don't you? You build phrases, you build words, and you try and connect the dots together. It probably comes from that background of thinking. When you're dyslexic, some of the stuff you do is the ability to put patterns together. So suddenly you put phrases together, or you understand which words fit where. So the bits that throw you off is like what being like when sometimes their you becomes before the actual doing word, and it's like it doesn't work. I can't actually think of an example, so I'm not going to try and give you one. So then you're looking at it being like, well, so it doesn't work in English. That confuses you a bit, but then I think once you get your head around it, you go, oh, actually, I can do that.
Yeah, I think I get what you mean. Like it doesn't look or sound right.
Yeah, because what your right is, what you've always known is this is how you put a sentence together, and they go, well, no, to take that. If this was written in English, that word there would be over here, and that's how we say it. And you go, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But if you said it, the young French, if you said it the way it's written in English in French, they go, yeah, we understand what you're saying. But the older French would be like, well, you're not doing it right.
Right. First of all, thank you very much for your time so far. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. And then when we come back, we've got a few quick fire questions and maybe one or two stories just to share with you. And then, but so far, mate, it's been really good. So thank you very much for your time so far.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Beyond Perception podcast. It is now time to say a big thank you to our sponsors, the Brain Charity. They're a national charity based in Liverpool, founded to support all people with neurological conditions. They offer practical advice, emotional support, and a range of physical and social activities. How they achieve this is by organising a range of activities and events, for example, all the classes that they have in the Neuro Gym. They also work with physiotherapists to provide best support and care for you. But don't worry, they also have digital ways to connect and help you. How you can help them is by directly donating through their website, where you can fundraise a game or a marathon maybe. For corporations, you can work with them on organising different events, for example team building. They can also help you enhance your inclusivity policies, making your workplace more inclusive, and also you can refer any of your staff members with neurological needs to them for any of their facilities. To find out more how you can help the Brain Charity and how the Brain Charity can help you, visit them on their website, www.thebraincharity.org.uk. Support, raise awareness, and also raise understanding for all neurological conditions, and empower individuals and families to manage their condition and also realise their full potential. Massive thank you again to the Brain Charity for partnering up with us on this podcast and also letting us share this important message. Now let's carry on with the episode. Welcome back, everyone. Those were the ads. We're still with Tom Harrison and Greg, of course. Now it's time to go for the quick fire questions, which we know are not that quick. But anyways, Tom, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So first one is, I know we made a few jokes about it, but what is your strength?
So I think a possible strength for me is my ability to create relationships and connections. I think that comes from a point of the ability to empathize with individuals, the ability to rational and reason and kind of gain and try and an understanding. You never have a complete understanding, but an empathy from where the point of view they're trying to make, and that links to that ability to care. And I think the other part around, and we spoke about this earlier, is my ability to see and think and visually problem solve. I think being dyslexic has really helped those two things, and there's many studies out there that will promote that understanding of that dyslexia side of you. And I think they're probably the strengths that I have.
Nice. And what would be your biggest weaknesses?
Probably sometimes how I get my viewpoint across, how I make it clear for others to see. Obviously reading and writing, they're definitely not my strengths. And that organizational thought of going, well, this is what I'm trying, the point I'm trying to make. Either I won't present it in a way that's understandable for another individual, and in my head it's dead clear. That would probably be the weakness. How do you get your point across to everyone rather than just certain people? And especially in your head, you're like, how do you not see it this way? And then the other bit would be like speaking up more,
Mm-hmm.
like just because you see something differently, actually what you see could be better. Where sometimes I'm like, well, they're all seeing it this way, and I'm going, oh, okay, well they've seen it that way. It's cool. That's the way to do it. Where in my head I'm going, it could be better this way. And I've had moments where we've then done it, and I've sat there and gone, oh, I saw that, or I knew that. But in that moment, I didn't say anything. So then I'm not going to be like, oh, I told you so, because I didn't have to tell anyone so. And I wouldn't be that way. But actually, I let us down by not giving prior thought to how it could be done, even if they shut that answer down. So they'd probably be better at that.
Nice. Thanks, Sharon.
Yeah, I really like that about speaking out. I think, especially if you think your way is better, it's just better to just get your point across.
I think like humans are like, there's always a sense of being judged in everything you do. And it's deep down that controls your emotion and where you go with it, and you're thinking like rationally or irrationally around someone's judgment. And it happens in all walks of life. So is one, how do you create an environment where it's non-judgmental, or actually is that possible? I'm not sure. But then you go in, like, are you judging the idea or the person? So how do you take away that? Like, how do you focus more on the idea of coming out of, because you have it, like you have a relationship with someone, you think their idea is better, or you go, oh, here goes crazy Harrison, he's about to give us another random one, while actually is just listen to the idea rather than the person making it. Well, yeah. So then
couldn't have said it better. That's going in my quote book. Okay, next question. What's your favorite sporting moment?
Oof. You do this and you go back to ones that aren't your favourites and the ones that scarred you, and you go, oh, yeah, they're the ones. I got a few of those. And they're the ones you learn the most out of, and things you'd have done differently. So I'll probably go, if I go sporting moments, winning the Premiership with Leicester was special on a few things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people played that I've known since they were 16, and some of them were like, two lads were lads that I played with, or they were in the squad. So there's 2 lads that I had played with who had joined that season. So I come up the pathway with them. There's another lad that we never played together, but we went to the same educational institute when he was 16. I knew of him, and there was 2 guys that were, or 3 guys that were from like the pathway that I'd actually coached. So seeing those guys, that, be fair, there might be more. But actually looking at a squad that's just won, and you're going, wow, I've known you guys for various levels of years, but all since you were, and I was a kid, a teenager, and that moment of seeing guys achieve things, I think it's special as well, given there's guys in that squad that has really helped me, especially guys like Tom Youngs, who'd accepted me as a young coach, and obviously the stuff happened with him in his life, and him stepping away at the start of the year, but then him having the moment to come and lift the trophy with the team. So those moments, and even coming back, and like we came back to meet the management, and Greg, you were there in the class afterwards, and actually having that moment of going, what have you done? Like, what have you done? Where we go back to 2017 and going, wow, like what we do in this walk of life is, you go, what's next, rather than taking a moment to go, how far have we actually come, and how far have we actually, what have we actually achieved? And then you reflect how you've done it, but actually we don't take enough to go, wow, that was we got to this point of the journey, and the journey's going to carry on going, but actually let's just see what we've done. So that was probably one of those moments. Then I've had a few recently, like lads being picked for the Lions. I was driving back. I had a meeting with another coach, and I was driving back on the motorway, listening to it and getting excited, just hearing their names and going, wow, like, thoroughly. And obviously you feel the lads who haven't made it, but like, they thoroughly deserve those guys who've got in, and the guys how hard they've got, how hard they've worked to get there. And especially when you've sat down and you've planned things out, and you've worked hard with individuals, and actually then seeing them go to work at it, and you've gone brilliant. Like, you're seeing them work daily, you see them, they're checking in bi-weekly with you because you don't see them all the time. and then seeing them achieve it and just thinking how proud, like you're like really proud for them as a mate and a coach and a person who works with them. But then also thinking about how proud that their family are going to be.
I'll show you one little story as well from that Premiership final. Was the moment that stood out for me from Tom's point of view was once the whistle had gone and he'd had that moment where he celebrated and all that, was actually Arthur would have been 18 months, mate.
Yeah, about that.
And him and Arthur, he was chasing Arthur around the pitch while Arthur was just running around with ticker tape and things like that. And like Tom just had that moment with Arthur. Like, so regardless of what had gone on, just to be able to see him with his son on the pitch at that time was really good. Like, and like
we do that like now. So like
you do that now, don't you?
Yeah, when we go to Twickenham, it's always a big like one. He watches the game, he has no idea what's going on, and he just wants to come on the pitch. We went to Bath away, and my whole family were there, and you don't get very good signal at the Rec, and we lost the game off the back of a scrum. That was my area. They gave us a penalty, and we lost the game, and it would be the first time we'd have beaten Bath in many years, and. Yeah, and I walked off the pitch and I went straight down the tunnel, and I was, I thought I'd let down the whole club. And Arthur wanted to go on the pitch, and I didn't have my phone. I didn't get the signal. But I was so annoyed I didn't even look at my phone, and he never got the opportunities. And my twin brother was there, and he ran him out on the back pitch. And it was at that moment, I kind of went to myself, well, there's got to be a time. Like this is the work we do in the environment we're in. It's on the edge of elite sport, and it's people care, people support, people pay a lot of money for it. For you to go and win games, and that's the. I know what environment I'm in, but there's also a moment where you go, what an opportunity! What like Arthur can say he's been on the pitch. Arthur can say he's been at Twickenham and he runs around at Twickenham. And I would be doing a disservice as a father if I'm not providing with that. And there's obviously it's good for me because it gives you that split second to go, okay, get your thoughts right before you going in, and go and see. Then you go and see Steve, etc. And you go through the game stuff. But yeah, it's probably that moment at Bath where I've gone, I wasn't the best. Because I allowed the emotions of the game and the fixture to get on top of me, and I would be kind of think to yourself like, you take an opportunity off people, of your loved ones, the people you want to provide opportunity for, by being so obsessed in what you're doing.
Would you say that's a big learning moment for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I think so. I think like I said, my family are so supportive. Like we call it our job, like it's our job. Like they're in with it. They might not be. Be fair, Beffen can watch the scrum and tell you what's going on, but like they might not be on the pitch delivering it. But they're the ones back at home. Right, Beffen's the one back at home making it work. When I'm away in camp for 6 weeks in a different country on a different time zone. So you do that, but then what happens is because these jobs aren't 9 to 5, like you're on, and then there's a dial where you're like, oh, you're on and off, but the dial's never off. Like, you're never off. It's always you're on or you're really on. But the hyper focus on going, bang, I am on and I am in. And then these distractions, I'm just like, oh, they're like, see, I even call them distractions. They're not distractions. They're parts of your life.
Cool, appreciate that. Thanks for sharing.
Perfect. And then how do you hope this podcast helps other people?
How do I hope it helps people? I think hopefully I've provided a brief insight to a dyslexic's mind, brain, and how things work. I guess the biggest thing for me is like find a way to make things happen. Don't sit back and go, oh, I'm dyslexic, I can't do it. Like you can do it. It might just be difficult, or there might just be a different way of doing it that you haven't discovered yet. Would be a thing. Like there's many and not me, but there's many great people who've been dyslexic who've been successful in different walks of life and being creative. So can dyslexic people become that in terms of educators and coaches? think differently around how you're coaching people. Don't just paint people with a brush and then dot on individuals. Actually, is there different ways that we can be better at coaching by understanding how a dyslexic person may think or dyspraxic person may think, and what are the small coping mechanisms that I can educate someone on that's going to set them up for success.
Superb.
Amazing.
Really, really love that. Look, Tom, that's the end of our interview. Honestly, it's been really good. Like, I'm biased anyway, mate. You know, like, I'm always.
I was waiting for the cool. They've done really well at media training, like that ability just to go up above them.
I genuinely love doing that, mate. So thank you very much. It's been brilliant having you.
Mate, it's been brilliant doing it. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciated it. If you need anything, just let us know. All right.
Will do, mate. Cheers.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so
Say hello
much.
to family. So, Tatjana, that was, as you'd probably be able to tell, one of my best friends, Tom Harrison. How was the interview for you?
I literally don't know what you're on about. I could not sense the bromance literally through my screen just the whole time. But no, he was very, very nice, very open, very chill. He looks at a complete different perspective, and it got me really thinking about how do we all think, what all the differences, and also, yeah, just be more opinionated also, and voice your opinions and the way you think as well. So, sorry, this just all came out, but honestly, I don't know why, but this call in particular has really got me thinking about how we all think.
Well, that's really good. But that's what we want in it. We want everyone who's listening to be thinking and getting the brain sparking a little bit for them to go, oh, that's interesting. Like
100%.
It's doing exactly what we want it to do. And like, there's so many more stories we probably could have delved into with Tom, and there's probably so much more we could have, you know, because there's so much. And like we just found at the end, like he's 34, and yet you look at his coaching pedigree of what he's done, like it's ridiculous. Like. But again, that's because of the person he is, and the background of how he's got to that point and how he thinks has definitely shown that. I think the biggest learning for me was that bit where he said he doesn't know he thinks differently because he's only ever thought in one way. It's only when other people share how they think it becomes like that. I think that's really, again, interesting. And I think we're getting that on these podcasts. We're starting to hear how other people are thinking and how they perceive things or interpret information. And sometimes it is different, and actually sometimes it's not different at all. It can be the same as what others are thinking, and maybe hopefully that's going to help people through that.
100%. It's like when you were saying, when you're just saying how you don't know that you're thinking differently until other people tell you. So, it just adds more to the points that Tony made and to the points that Scott made as well about how if we all approach each other as we were neurodiverse, or if that's what Tony said, or when Scott said that. If everyone, no matter what side you're on, neurodiverse or not, if everyone just took time to think like the other side, everyone will be doing a great job. And it's once again, it's that if you voice your opinions, if you communicate, and if you approach everyone in the right manner, you will be able to see how be able to see how the others think, and just make everything once again better. So I think our point and our goal of trying to find that out and break that stigma slowly coming together, and like just go beyond the perception of people's opinions and stuff like that, like is definitely getting to it. So
nice, well played, and I liked how he brought that in then. Tatjana, before we do go, me and the listeners wish you the very best of luck with your exams. We know you've been working really hard to make sure you do so well at it, and we're wishing you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for a great episode. Thank you for introducing me to your best friend. And yeah, I hope you have a great week, month, and I'll see you when I see you. But yeah, definitely.
No problem. And thank you very much to the listeners as always. Take care. See you all soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.